Hello, 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 everybody. My name is Farrington, and I'm so excited to introduce our amazing guest here today, attending from the wonderful film Intentionally Erased. This is the 35th anniversary screening of Out on Film. We are so excited to present this film with a documentary film with our greater Atlanta audience. And I have the honor of introducing Tony Porter, who is an author, educator, and activist working on advancing gender and racial justice and create a more equitable society. Porter is internationally recognized for his efforts to prevent violence against women while promoting healthy and respectful manhood. Porter is an author, breaking out of the man box, and a visionary for the NFL dads, dedicated to the daughters. As well, I do have the honor here of presenting here Kimya, who's a director. Kimya is an educator, activist, and author, director, producer, multidisciplinary, and fabulous filmmaker here, working to end all violence against women and girls. Motley is nationally recognized for his success and dedicated leadership to victims, and here, even in Georgia, by our former governor, Nathan Deal, and Investigation Discovery and Georgia Commission on Family Violence. Kimya's memoirs has been a recognized story all across the globe, and I'm just going to let us crack into this and see how that story has brought everyone here today. So Kimya, if you want to start, I would love to just talk about yourself, talk about A Call to Men and everything that went into making this documentary and the audience in which you catered this documentary for.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. So a little bit about me and how I got connected with A Call to Men, which then, of course, connected us to doing this documentary. So I'm going to give just a little trigger warning because what I'm going to share, of course, involves some domestic violence and gun violence. Okay, so I want to say that up front. But I am a survivor of gun violence due to domestic violence. I was married to my husband for about 4 years. It became abusive. I asked for a divorce. The number one thing you do not do when you're an abused person unless you have a safety plan. I did not have a safety plan. I just wanted out. And he met me at my daughter's daycare center, and he shot me multiple times at the daycare center. 4 times in the face, neck, back of the head, and back. And Farrington, he did not stop there. He went on to shoot my then 10-year-old daughter 1 time in the head as well. And I say that, we both lived by God's grace, and my whole life really just changed after that point. Not many people live through being shot 4 times. And I wanted to be able to share my story and everything that I was learning about intimate partner violence in an effort to stop it from happening to other families. Well, I got connected with Mr. Porter, with Tony, and A Call to Men through an event that came here to Atlanta. Remember when the Super Bowl came to Atlanta? We won't spend too much time, on that. But when the Super Bowl came here to Atlanta, the NFL had an event. I was there. I met Tony, and I just knew, like, I always wanted to work with men on ending violence. One of the things that Tony says all the time, that women work so hard towards ending the violence. We need men to come alongside us, join in this effort to end the violence. So I aligned with that messaging and everything that they were doing. So I began working with them. Now, literally, as far as this film is concerned, okay, so I will be very transparent. I sent him a message. This is a thing that we don't quite have together, but I believe I sent him a message and I said, you should do this, meaning him, like, I'm giving you the idea. This is a film like that we should do. And he says, okay, let's do it. Let you figure out how it happens. I had not even thought anything about myself, doing a film. I'm an educator at heart. You see, I talk a lot. I was, things like that, but I had not considered actually creating myself the film. And so what I love about him is he said he saw something, within me, and said, go do it. So that's what we started doing, researching all all of everything, all the framework of creating a film, and he and A Call to Men backed what we were doing. We had all the necessary conversations with women in the trans community, which of course just ignited my passion to do it even more so, because one of the things that Diamond says, and you'll meet her in the film, but one of the things that Diamond says that I love is she would always say, hey, we need to find the commonalities in our struggles, in our fights, and then that is what causes us to come together. When I realized that 2021 was the deadliest year on record for Black trans women, and then knowing everything that I went through, I wanted to pour my whole self into this project to work towards ending the violence against them. No, that's a lie, but you asked me a lot of questions up there in the front.
Thank you incredibly so much, Kimya. I think having that conversation and focusing, like you said, I think another important part of that documentary was just talking about taking yourself out of the viewpoint. And I think just showing how you were able to, one, conquer such a trial, let's say, and such an experience into something more powerful onto a broader audience, and to really push a conversation to bring that change towards
Yes.
trans people, I think is beautiful. Mr. Porter, I wanted to ask you, as one of the subjects of the film, what was it like working behind it? How was being on there representing Kimya's kind of call to you in this film, and how that dynamic and duo benefited this amazing documentary?
Yeah, thank you, Trent, and thank you and Out on Films for selecting us to be a part of
Yes.
the festival. And we're honored by that. It blesses my heart. We really, really appreciate you and all the folks there with you. When Kimya brought the idea to me, I immediately caught the vision.
Mm-hmm.
It was right in line with the work of A Call to Men. And we had been talking a lot at A Call to Men, teaching a lot, engaging a lot with the folks we work with around what we call uh, working from within the margins of the margins, right? Centering people in the margins of the margins. And when we say that to folks, the example we would give as someone in the margins of the margins would be a Black transgendered woman, is an example of someone in the margin. Now, we've been talking about this and teaching people to think that way, and it was an opportunity for us to really demonstrate what we're saying, what we're teaching. The idea to get Black cisgendered men together with Black transgendered women and to sit on the couch for 4 days in conversation. I mean, I was blown away by the thought of that and what could come from that. At the center of our work at A Call to Men, we believe in transformation of men more than transactional experiences. What we do primarily as men, but transformation of men. We believe in the hearts of men, grabbing the hearts of men, ensuring that men leave our presence thinking and feeling differently than they did entering it. We know that Black cisgendered men have to be part of the solution if we want to end the violence against our trans sisters. If we want to, we talk a lot about in the film and as an organization about embracing their humanity. We talk a lot about embracing the humanity of people. We talk a lot about our own humanity as men, how it's been limited by virtue of us living in the confines of this man box. So the idea, the vision of this film was, if we can get cis men, Black men together with some Black transgendered sisters, and in that film be able to witness transformation happening with the men, to be able to witness the men starting here and moving here. right?
Mhm.
That other cis black men, but men in general, other men would see that and maybe it would help jumpstart their own journey. That's the whole premises of course, we know that to do that, as you would witness in the film, there's a lot of education that's going on in the film. There's disagreement in the film. There's a lot of heartfelt conversations. All of that, in of its entirety, was the hopes that it would move men by watching these men move and
Mhm.
jumpstart our journey to embracing the humanity of our Black trans sisters. So that was the vision, and I'm hoping we really captured that in the film, and that people, Black men, will get on that journey with us, begin to ask questions, not being afraid to ask questions, to get to demonstrating an interest in the experience of Black transgender women without the fear of homophobia and all the rest of that coming into play. Embracing their humanity is which will allow us to do that.
Yes, and I just want to add to what Tony shared as well, Farrington, because even though this film was made with Black men and we have Black trans women, we don't want to set the precedence. This is something that just happens within the Black community, because it's not. We chose this as a model to show men that, hey, this is probably happening within the white community, within the Latinx community, because the trans women in these communities are most at risk by the men that are in those communities. So I want to be clear, that this is not just a problem that happens within our Black community.
No, I completely hear that, Kimya. I think there's dualities in that. I once watching it and kind of towards the end, and you see the abundance of Black people in the room towards the end of the documentary, and you see kind of this gathering. There is some type of familiarity and some type of Black success there in the conversation, the moving conversation that came from that. I think to both your points, yes, it is focused on a conversation with Black men and violence, but I think one of the greatest gems of this film is the trans women telling their stories, speaking their truths, and actually getting the men to kind of get those pieces to connect. I wanted to ask about just finding those subjects and just maybe a recap on how they are now, what they're doing, what it was like to work with some just powerful, strong, emotional, and just very dynamic group of trans women.
Yes.
Well,
So I'm going to say that I really learned so much through this experience. Just having those interviews with the men initially, we thought, okay, this should be pretty easy to find 3 men to have this conversation. And it was one of the most challenging parts, finding men that would be willing to come and just sit down and have a conversation with our trans sisters. That was one of the most mind-blowing parts for me. So it was an educational moment. We spoke to dozens of men, interviewing them. Like, I would set up an interview with them first and just kind of gauge their thought processes for wanting to do this, because we were very clear. We didn't want someone that was so far to the left end that, like, absolutely not, I don't want to do that, having an aversive reaction to it. And we didn't want someone who'd already arrived with embracing the humanity of trans women. We wanted someone somewhere in the middle that was open to education, open to connecting with the women, to be able to move, to Tony's point that he made earlier. So that took a lot of interviews. If they made it past the first interview with me, then Tony and I had an interview with him, because he has a wonderful way of connecting with men. He spoke with them, and then that's how we chose the subjects, the men. Now, actually, Diamond, we connected with her and her organization, and they sent a set of people that they thought would be great for interviewing. Diamond did the first round of interviews with them, and she chose them, and we were able to meet when we arrived on set. Now, as far as what happened during that, like Tony told you, that we met for 4 days and we went through every emotion you could possibly imagine. In the beginning, the conversation was, I say, very much up here. Like they were talking about intellectual things that they felt that they should be saying. And Tony is such a great interviewer. You know, you saw him, as you will see in the film, moderating the conversation in such a way that he was able to reach into their hearts. Okay, now let me pull out what you feel. And that's when things kind of, at one point, kind of exploded, that, you know. And the wonderful thing that I'll just say is at the end, as you see, we did get to a point where everybody moved to a certain degree. I am not in relationship with every person that was a subject of the film. I do know that Derek, Dr. I think his last name is Wayne, said that he is now, he just started a practice in Seattle, and he hired his first trans woman, something that he said he never would have thought or occurred to do prior to participating in this film. So that's one of our success stories that I feel, you know, super excited about.
You know, just to add to what Kimya shared, one of the things that I really loved and embraced was the Black joy and the Black love in filming this project, because it was all Black people, you know, and I'm unapologetic in saying that. I'm good with that, you know, all Black people. The makeup artists were Black, the caterer was Black, the folks who we rented the house from, the home from, a beautiful home, were Black. The entire film crew was Black. And I was the oldest person there. So I really got off on that also, because I was around all of these young, brilliant Black people. You see at the end of the film, you see a picture of everyone. When you watch the film, you got to stay through the credits, because right at the end of the credits, there's a picture of the entire cast. And so witnessing and experiencing and being an elder in that space of all of that Black love and joy, and these young, brilliant Black minds. One of my favorite folks was the makeup artist that was she was just a trip, just cracked me up the whole time. She would put a fan on me and do whatever that does to my makeup. And then she would whisper in my ear, "How does that feel, Tony?" And I was we just had a blast. So we were arguing and a lot of emotions flying on that couch. And we get up from that couch, we would eat together, we would talk, we would laugh, we would love on each other. So it was a beautiful experience, and I hope folks that are watching the film can get a sense of that.
Yeah.
There's a definite duality there. I think, like you said, there's having a conversation about trans inequality and trans violence. It is definitely in the Black community centered around anti-Blackness. It's something that is kind of vampant and rampant, as you see it, as Kimya kind of pointed out some of those statistics of even last year, and you kind of just sit back and think, wow, to this day, they are still the most marginalized group, and equal to that in violence and suffering. So yeah, I think to that there is an element of anti-Blackness in the atmosphere, and I think even starting on that and starting at the center of that, you can feel it. But I think there is a lot that was shifted and changed. I think one of the great points they said was just thinking about your own family and your own mother, because there is queer ancestry there, regardless if you kind of ignore it, which I think is a good tactic within us, is just kind of ignoring it, but it is kind of humanizing, what it is what it is that you might not understand. To that, I think one of the best parts about this documentary is how educational and informative it is. And I know that it kind of jumped into our next question, but Tony, I know that you have provided a certain amount of years to this conversation and to this narrative of equality and justice for women and Black women. So I wanted to ask just what it was like, just full circle, just seeing like the transgression of the younger men, a younger audience there that you kind of led and captivated that conversation into finding like the core of where this documentary kind of bloomed and blossomed from. I guess to also rephrase that, what I'm asking is when doing this, when having these conversations and actually being in that kind of melting pot of emotions, how do you navigate the conversation? How do you navigate the narrative in which we were able to discover and see in the film?
Well, it was an interesting experience for me because I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, Trent, but I think I am. I know what's resonating for me. I'm in this space, we're in this space. I have the film on my mind, what we're trying to capture, the product we're trying to produce. That's on my mind while at the same time negotiating everything that's happening in the space, knowing that everything that's happening in the space is not going to be on the film, but may very well need to happen to get the film. So I'm negotiating that. In my mind, I'm thinking footage, footage, footage. And at the same time, you have all these experiences happen. And the folks on the couch, they forgot all about footage. They ain't even thinking about footage. They forgot the cameras in the room. They're just in the conversation. And at times, in the heat of the moment. And I'm trying to navigate, negotiate that, and at the same time, get the kind of footage we need for the end product. It wasn't that easy. It
No.
had its moments. It definitely had its moments because I'm the one on the couch that was holding true to that. Then I would go behind the scenes or during breaks or whatever that evening, and I'm talking to Kimya, I'm talking to Danielle, who also works with us as a co-man. She's in the film as well. At the end, and really getting their help in, okay, how do I frame this next piece? Where do we pick up from where we left off? People still need to vent, and the venting wasn't going to, a lot of it wasn't going to be in the film, but it needed to happen in order. So it was a lot. I could not have done it by myself. I had these sisters alongside of me to negotiate that. We had a mental health therapist on site, and she was well used.
Yes.
All right. She was needed, and not just for the sisters, for the men. She spent one-on-one time with everybody throughout that time, and many of them several times. I had my sessions with her too, because we really needed her services. The amount of trauma that was being relived and re-experienced for folks in that space. Folks gave of themselves for this 55, 60-minute film. Folks really, really gave of themselves. It was a tremendous negotiation, and I love them all for it. And I just hope the audience understands that and embraces that as they're experiencing it with us.
Yes. And one thing that Tony, because he's such a humble person, one thing that he's probably not going to say, but I'm going to go ahead and say, like, there was a point where we were really wondering if we could go on with filming because it had become so intense in the room. And my mind is on one thing. As a director, I'm like, I have these things that I want everyone to do. I have these questions that I want them to answer. I want it to go this way. And he kind of said, you know what? We need to work on healing the room first. We're just going to talk. So let's think about intentionally what we can talk about so we can get them back to a point where they're feeling really good about what they're sharing. And at first I wasn't in agreement because I'm thinking, no, this is what I saw. This is the vision. This is how it's got to go. But it absolutely needed to happen. So like on our last day of filming, we just spent time talking to each other. And Tony spent that time just really connecting with them, back in a space where they could feel safe to share the kinds of things that we wanted to share. And like to the point that we wanted them to share. And to the point that Tony made too about about having a mental health consultant. When we first spoke with the ladies about it, and we said, this is, what we want to do, they all said, oh, we don't need that. We're used to talking about these things. We're going to be okay. And in the end, they said, oh, we are so glad that you had her here, to be able to help them all unpack. And even it brought up things, to Tony's point, that the men had experienced in their lives that they needed to process and unpack. And so it was very therapeutic for all of us to be in that space, to learn, like Tony said, from their own lived experiences, but to connect to our own lived experiences, to be able to come alongside them to make this project successful.
No, I absolutely. Thank you so much. I think to that, Kimya, you were mentioning, I'm sorry, there's some loud racket going on out my window, but
we don't hear it.
Okay, it's a tree being cut down. But I want to say, as I look at this film, Kimya, and just hearing kind of the experience on set, watching it unfold in the movie, getting behind the scenes elements and hearing a little bit about that, this film talks and is a wonderful representation of, I think, queer media, queer filmmaking, and documentary filmmaking, as you talk about having an educated conversation and an educational experience for everyone, not only just in that room, but as a viewer as well. I think you both, not both, but I mean, you both work for A Call to Men, but I think your organization more so on that, on facilitating this unique conversation, this unique experience, and sharing it with a greater area and a greater mindset of not just queer. It's in a queer festival, of course, but this is a film that I can share with my straight friends, with my cisgender and maybe not allies, but you all both are allies in this cause, and you are part of that LGBTQIA plus dynamic in the festival. So I feel like while you thank me for selecting and thank Out on Film for making it happen, there's a beauty to what you have provided to us and to the community and to everyone who watches this film. I want to wrap it up by just asking some of the feedback that you have gotten from the film so far, and yeah, we can start there.
Oh, we've gotten amazing feedback. So when we did our screening with you all the other night, we had a number of people that are in DV, domestic violence, sexual assault organizations that came because they were curious, and they gave some amazing feedback that even they learned some new things. Now that was powerful for me, to have folks like Tony, who have been seasoned in the work, that have been doing it for decades, say, hey, I really learned something here. And more importantly, we want to bring this to our organization. We want to bring this to our conference. This has got to be shown, because we want to be able to educate folks, around what we said when we were there. We want people to be educated on the experiences of trans women, to really connect with their humanity, and for men to be able to create spaces where they can feel like they can share with each other, because that's one of the key components in ending the violence against the women.
Absolutely. And then Tony, can I ask what is next for A Call to Men? Is there another part 2 to this? Is there any more conversations, books? What's the next chapter of this conversation, Tony?
You should have asked Kimya that question instead of me.
I'm gonna slide it right back to Kimya.
I'm following her lead.
Oh, that's
okay. So now that Tony has said, yeah, you do it, let's see what you're gonna do. You can't do that to me, Trent, because then I come up with 1,000 different things that I want us to do. Right now, as far as this film is concerned, as I shared with you, we want to be able to take it to the masses, to have panel discussions, to have it screened, to really be able to give the women an opportunity to come and share their story. So we're really still trying to navigate those waters with this film. We're in the process of creating a couple of things. I'm really curious about the evolution of manhood and how that occurs in different communities, and how that occurs, really throughout the world. So we're going everywhere, kind of in the spirit of Anthony Bourdain, if you will, where we're just going into different communities, having conversations with men about their evolution of manhood. And that's no matter what community they're in. They identify an LGBTQIA community, whether they are cisgender, heterosexual men. We just want to be able to have those conversations about about different things. I can't tell you too much, but that's
No,
what.
keep it on the hush, but I want to be the first one to know. I thank y'all so much. I guess my other question, as it went back and forth, I think is now the film has now been presented to the audience, and now it has been presented to the public, and it's still available to stream. Y'all better go stream. What is
Vote
next?
for us.
Vote, vote, vote. What is next? Not just next, but what do you want next for the audience and for the viewers to take from this documentary to do? What is their call to action as far as the content that they have now just enjoyed and sit through and learned from?
I would say, and Tony, I'll give you opportunities to share as well. I would say to share this far and wide, share our trailer, email us and say you want to bring us to your wherever you're working, wherever you're doing work with folks, right? They need to see this film. Because like I said, my number one goal is ending the violence towards the women. And the only way we're going to do that is for people to hear these conversations, to spark conversations where they are in their own circles of influence. And it begins with this film.
Yeah.
Tony?
Yeah, any public, private screenings that you can help sponsor, use any influence you have in helping to connect us up with folks who would be of interest. We would love to hear from you. Please give us a shout and share that support with us. We'd be very interested in hearing from you.
No, I'm so emphatic to shout out A Call to Men. Do check out their website, acalltomen.com or
.org, acalltomen.org. Yes.
calltomen.org. Be sure to continue to follow this amazing, I think, dynamic duo here in trio. I know there's some talent in the film who are not here to join us today, but there's a very Black magic that I think happened in that room. It was a captivating experience and conversation fully and thoroughly through. I thank you all so much for being allies, for continuing to use your voice to talk to misrepresented people who are unable to sometimes use that voice. I kid you not, it is one of the cores and dynamics of working with a queer-focused LGBTQ plus organization. And yeah, with that being said, thank you all so much for joining me today. Intentionally Erased will be streaming online. Go get your tickets, share it with your family, have a sit down, and yeah, just enjoy this film. Thank you all so much, Tony and Kimya. It's been a wonderful conversation, and it's been so honoring to meet you both, and just congratulate you and thank you so much for doing this, having this conversation, and doing the work also, because it's not just the film. Your organization, I feel like, is embodying something very powerful in the narrative of actually making change and progressive reform for us and for all of our queer Black folks out there. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
All right.
Thank you, everyone, and have a good one.
Too.